Hello, it's been quite some time since the last video, so to do something in the meantime, I decided to do a tutorial about Unity's new input system and hope to help someone out. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is create a new project. You can use any render pipeline you want to use. I'm going to be using the universal render pipeline, and I'm just gonna call it tutorial and create the project. Once you're in the editor, the first thing you should do is go to the package manager. So first you go to Window, Package Manager, then set it to Unity Registry and type in input system and it'll be there, and then you should install it. Then you should get this warning and you're just going to press yes. So after you've done that, just create your basic scene setup. Alright, so I have my basic scene right here. I have a plane and I have my player here, which is a cylinder. The cylinder has a collider and a rigid body. Important is that you freeze its rotation under constraints. Also, you should have a camera holder which contains the main camera. So the camera holder has 0, 0, 0 and the main camera has 0, 0.5 and 0. Now we are going to add the player controller script. So we're going to add the component, player component, new script, create and edit. Next we're going to open the script, and for now we can delete the start and update. So the first thing we want to do is add using Unity Engine.input system. So the input system is going to work. And after that, we are going to add some references. First, we need our rigid body, and we're just going to call it RB. And then we are going to need the cam holder. Then we will need some floats for the speed and the sensitivity. After that, we will need a private vector2 for our move and look, and a private float for our look rotation. Then we need two methods, on move and on look. Just copy the first one and call it on look. Next we will need the fixed update, and in this we are going to get our current velocity, and we will set the target velocity. After that, we are going to need the velocity change to limit our forces, so we can't go unlimitedly fast. After this, don't forget to add the max force float up here. Then save the code for now and open the Unity editor. Go to your cylinder and assign the rigid body and your cam holder, and set the speed to something like 5 and the sensitivity to 0.1 and the max force to something like 1.5. Then we will need a new component, player input. You will see now that you don't have any input actions, so we're just gonna create some. And we're gonna call them player input. You will now see this open. You can just delete the fire action. So what you see here is the different key bindings. For example, for a gamepad, so a PS4 controller or an Xbox controller. This is for the mouse and keyboard. This is for the joystick, and so on. So now that we have this, save it and close it for now. Then under behavior, we're going to change it to invoke Unity events. Then you will see the events down here. We're gonna open them, go under player, and you will see here is our move and look method. Then drag your script down here and add your onMove function. And the same thing goes for look. Okay, now we can test our script. Okay, now that we have this finished, we can try it out. And as you can see, I'm moving very slowly and I can't look around, but I can move. So we are going to make it so that you can look around. So open your script and add a move method and make it public, and then put your current move code into the method and just call the method in your fixed update. Then you will want to add late update, which is where we are going to put our look code to look around. So now that we have this code in our late update, open Unity again and start. And as you can see, I can go beyond 90 degree, which is not very good. So we are going back into the script. So it's quite simple to fix this by clamping it between -90 and 90. And of course, what we will want to do is add a start method. And lock the cursor so it doesn't move around when you play. Save the script, and now when you go in Unity and try it out again, it should work how it is supposed to. Can't look up more than 90 degrees, and same for -90. Okay, so now we have one last thing to do, and we got the basic movement. Go to your move code, go to your velocity change, and add this line of code. Alright, now that we have done this, I am going to create a new function called look. And in this function, we're just gonna call the things from our late update and call it right here. And let's go to our fixed update and add a jump and create a jump function down here. And of course we have to add one of these over here too. Call it on jump, and inside of this we're gonna call jump. Actually, don't call the jump function in the fixed update and remove it over here because we have it here already. Alright, now we are going to add the code. And if we are grounded, so if we are on the ground, then we are going to jump and add our force. And of course, up here we have to add our jump force and our bool, which is called grounded. Now we need to determine if we are grounded or not. So create another function and we will call it ground switch. And we will need a bool state. So if we are grounded or not. And of course, set the grounded to the actual state. Right, now go back to Unity. And in your cylinder, create a empty game object and call it ground check. Add a box collider to it, set it as a trigger, and get it at -1. And the size should be around 0.9, 0.1, and 0.9 again. Actually, we can keep it at 1. 1 is probably the best option right here. And add a component called ground check as a new script. Open it up. First thing we have to do is delete the start and update. Create a reference for our player. What I forgot to mention was you can name your player controller whatever you want. I just mistakenly named it player component because I said it. So for me it's going to be the player component. We'll just call it player component again. Then, because the box collider has a trigger, going on trigger enter. And if the other game object is the player itself, then we don't want to do anything. And then we are going to set grounded to true. And of course, we will do the same thing for on trigger stay. Copy this. And the same thing for on trigger exit. Just paste it. Alright, now we save this. Go back to Unity. Now we have to add our player component. And go to the player, or actually go to the player input. Add a action called jump. Then we need a binding, so you're just gonna press space on the keyboard and set the check mark over here. Now you could also add another binding for example, a controller. So over here, button east, north, south, and west. So you can instantly use a controller with the new input system. But for this tutorial, we are not going to need that. After we've added this, just save. And go back to this cylinder, go to the events, player, jump, drag in your component. Go to player component and add your on jump function. And now we have to set our variables. For the jump force, we're going to be going with something like 5. And the max force, we can set it to 10 again. And let's try this out. Right, so as you can see, we can jump with spacebar, but somehow we are constantly grounded for whatever reason. Oh, right. Actually, I forgot, go back to your code. I forgot to, on exit, we of course want the ground switch to say we are not grounded anymore. Under on trigger exit, we're going to switch it from true to false over here and save it again. Go back to Unity and now try it out again. Alright, so when I jump now, I'm not grounded anymore. Also, I forgot another line of code in the move function. We need to set our target velocity times equals our speed, else it doesn't really work. That is the reason why I was so slow at the beginning of the video. I'll try it again now. Okay, so now you can see I'm moving way faster than before. So this is the basic movement done. Now I will show you how to do sprint and crouching. So there are two ways to do sprint and crouching. So when I was learning about the new input system, the first way was to add a sprint start and a sprint end. And what would happen was I would set this to shift, for example, and the sprint end is also shift. So this one would be press only, and the sprint end would be on release only. So this meant if I wanted to do key bindings, I would not be able to change the key binding for sprinting because it's two different actions. And what you have to do is you rename this to sprint. You go to interactions, and there you can activate hold, and then you have a press point, which doesn't really matter, and then you have the hold time. You can change the default one, or you can change the hold time for only the sprint. So this is how long you have to hold your key until it starts to do the action. So I would recommend putting into 0.1. Now after you have done this, you have to save and then go back into your code. Now that we have multiple speeds, we will need the move speed, and we will also need a sprint speed. Actually, we're gonna put the move speed in a private float. And of course we will need a normal walk speed too. So we have this over here at the top. Now go down to your start method and start with the move speed as the walk speed. Also in your move function, we will need to change the speed to move speed. So now that we have done this, in the start function, we have to add this. So when the sprint is performed, so when you press the shift key, for example, it's going to call the sprint pressed function, and when you release it, so cancel the sprint, it's going to do the sprint released function. Now we also need a reference for our player input, so we are going to paste this in, and at the start we're going to private player input. You have to go back to Unity and generate a C# class. So we go on our player input and go to generate C# class and apply. Now we're back in the editor. Paste in these two lines. Now we also need our sprint pressed and sprint released functions. So we are going to add them at the top. Now we have these two functions. Now we also need the bool is sprinting. We're just gonna add it behind grounded. So when we are pressing the sprint button, we're gonna check if the player is grounded, because it wouldn't make sense if the player was in the air and he could sprint. Then, if the player is on the ground, then we are going to set the bool to true, and we're gonna move at our sprint speed that we set. And we're going to move at the sprint speed that we set. And on the sprint released, we don't have to check if the player is grounded. So we're just gonna set is sprinting to false and the move speed back to the walk speed. Now this should be it. So we're gonna save, go back to the editor. Then we are going to put our walk speed to something like 5 and our sprint speed to 10. Now we're going to start. Now, as you can see, we are not sprinting. And when I press shift now, I'm not going faster. I did a mistake. We're not gonna add the interaction under sprint. We're gonna add it under our shift. Mark it with the keyboard and mouse. Go to interactions and add our hold. Now set the hold time to 0.1 again. And save. Now we are going to try it again. It still does not quite seem like it works. So what I'm gonna do now is create two functions again, on enable and on disable, and after we created a new player input, we're going to enable it. Now we will try it again, and as you can see, when I press shift, I am moving faster and the bool sprinting is set to true. When I release it, the move speed gets set back to the walk speed and sprinting gets to false. Now you could also add this with crouching. So instead of sprinting, it's just gonna be called crouching. And also you can easily expand this system as you wish. And I hope I helped someone out with this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.